Hey, this is Davin with Hagerty, our Redline Rebuild updates. Last update, we were kind of stuck at the timing side of things as far as the camshaft and the gears are concerned. But today we're going to move forward on our assembly. But I wanted to touch base here real quick on the problems that I ran into with the timing. Simply throw the gears on, let it go, be blind to whatever you might measure. No, don't do it. Don't fall into that pitfall. So what I have over here and in here are timing gear sets. I went through 4 timing gear sets to find a timing gear set that would work with my camshaft in the block assembly. The first one I had, the problem was it went on, the timing portion was okay, but the chain was so tight I could have played any banjo song you ever wanted to play. Second ones went on well. In other words, the timing chain wasn't tight. So in other words, variation in this set gave me too tight. Second and third set were fine from that aspect, but the variation between the degrees when you initially put the camshaft in was shocking. Meaning I had upwards of 10 degrees timing changes when installed straight up. Ironically, the old GM standby that came with it installed perfect, 106, right on the dime. Of course, it only has one hole as far as the key is concerned, and I'm not going to reuse this nylon gear because that would be a bad idea. I'm surprised it lasts this long. All right, so the moral of the story, I keep saying it, and I keep people telling me I don't need to do all that on a stock build. Well, you do what you want to do. I'm going to keep measuring because there's a big difference in all these parts. And it doesn't seem to be brand dependent. It's just a thing. Okay, short block is buttoned up. Now I'm going to move on to putting my cylinder heads on. Prior to doing that though, I need to do 2 things, and that's to check my valve clearance. Now that I've changed stuff, I've decked things, I want to make sure that I don't have any issues with my valves crashing into the top of the pistons. So I'm just going to verify the numbers that we have are okay. And then lastly is I need to go through and decide what length my push rod needs to be, and I'm going to use this adjustable push rod, mock everything up, go through, put it in, go through the stroke, look at how it marks out on the top of the valve, and then measure my push rod, and then get them ordered. Easy as that. All right, so now I have all my valve train mocked up, cylinder heads on, head gaskets in. I have head bolts just kind of lightly snugged up, take up any slack. Lifters are down in there. I happen to have 2 adjustable push rods, so I can do this at one time. I have them ballparked in where I think things should be as far as what that push rod lengths will be. And I'm gonna go through and roll it through the stroke. I can check for my clearance because I put some clay down on top of the piston. And then when I go through a full revolution, I can check and see how the contact patch is on the top of the valve stems, because I have these setup springs down here, so my hydraulic roller will not compress. I want to make sure I move everything else instead. So to show the indication of the valves, I just used a Sharpie and did this. And as it goes through the stroke, it'll wear or take that little bit of Sharpie off, and it'll show me my contact patch. You could also use some die chem if you happen to have that from a machinist standpoint. Now, after I pull the rockers back off, that should show me how my contact patch is. I do have the intake a little bit shorter than the exhaust, and that's basically just to see the difference. And that had some oil on it, but you can just see it. Okay, so I can see that this is my contact patch from here to here, and then this one is like right here to right here. So this one looks a little bit better because it's pushed this way. You'd like to have it kind of dead over the center as far as the full amount of travel, and it looks to me like this little bit shorter push rod is going to be our winner. All right, so this push rod's a little easier because it comes out of the head without sliding it up, but take this out without churning anything. Take these 12-inch calipers and just measure it end to end, and it's at 7.100. So that's going to be my push rod length. So now I know what to order. Now pull the cylinder head out and let's see what our clearance looks like. Get it back off. Oh, we're in good shape. Nice. So you can see how when the valves moved up and down and the pistons moved up and down, that it left an imprint showing you what the clearance is from the valve to the piston. So what I'm looking for on clearance is I like to have at least 100 thousandths. I know you can always go tighter than that, but I like to have at least 100 thousandths clearance. On the exhaust, the intake can be a little bit tighter because the exhaust grows and gets closer with the heat, but on the intake, it does not. That's okay. All right, so here's our impression for the exhaust valve, and we're well above 100. So we're at 275 on the exhaust, so plenty of clearance, nothing to worry about there. And on our intake, pretty close to the same, 235. So again, nothing to worry about there. All right, cylinder heads are on and completely torqued down. Of course, we use lube on top of the head, so everything is good. And now moving on to the valve train portion of our show. We're gonna put push rods in, rockers on, and then go through and adjust the lash. Now, here's my rockauto.com tip of the day. Hydraulic and solid are two different things. That's not the only tip part. The tip is how you adjust them. So when you go to adjust them, a solid lifter is adjusted with a feeler gauge. You have to actually leave a gap in them. Hydraulic lifters, you do not leave gaps in them. What you do is you come down, tighten your rocker down, and just as you feel it touch, so all that lash is gone, and you give it typically a half a turn more, set it, done. Move on to the next thing. All right, well, that wraps up our long block assembly. And with that, it kind of kills all the little minor details of everything. Now, granted, you got to put the intake manifold on correctly and drop the distributor in correctly. But, you know, for the most part, we're done here. Well, at least for today. So after this, bolt everything else on and get it on the engine stand. But for today, I'm done. Get out in the shop, go get your work done. See ya.